What's good, Right Side Nation? Mike Hanley here with RightSideNews.com. The right news for Americans. Wanted to jump on. We just had a Trump rally tonight, held in Las Vegas. High energy and just a lot of positivity. And just to cover a few things, Trump started out and he talked about the economy. He talked about jobless claims in the United States are the lowest that they have been in over 50 years. We are now the world's largest producer of energy. He talked about tears from the fake news media whenever Trump won the election, and he said to this day they are still crying, and I believe that is absolutely the case. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, no matter what happens, you've got somebody coming out accusing somebody of something. Look at what's going on with Brett Kavanaugh. That's what this video is going to be about, but I kind of wanted to just jump into that rally really quick and just give you a little bit of insight on what DJT has been talking about, really getting after it. Hey, we had a lot of lock her up chants. I mean, Hillary, does she deserve to be locked up? Probably. The emails, the server, the DNC. Look at what happened to Seth Rich. I mean, come on, these people knew what was going on. Seth Rich gave the emails out to WikiLeaks because he knew that Bernie Sanders was being screwed over by Donna Brazile, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Seth Rich knew that they were giving it to Hillary, and he sent out these. He went ahead and sent out these emails, and he sent them to WikiLeaks. And guess what happened? What the media calls a botched robbery, where he gets shot. Seth Rich gets shot 3 times in the back of the head. They leave his wallet, and the media calls it a botched robbery. That's not a botched robbery. That's just a straight-up murder. I don't care which way you look at it. But there's just, I mean, Hillary, just lock her up, okay? I digress. Americans, we rejected globalism. Trump, he says that he is the president of the United States of America, not the president of the globe. So what he's going to do is he's going to take care of Americans first. He's going to grow the economy. Obviously, lowest jobless claims in 50 years. Black unemployment, lowest it's ever been. Hispanic unemployment, lowest it's ever been. Unemployment for women, lowest it's been in 60 years. And so these are all just the positive things that we have going on. And he's just out there trying to drum up some report for the people that are on the ballot in Nevada. We got to go out, vote Republican, vote red, because we have to hopefully garner a super majority in both the House and the Senate, so that we can begin to pass these bills, so that we can build the wall along the southern border, prevent illegal immigration, human smuggling, drug trafficking, among other things. National security, it's an issue at the border. So those are the things that we want to do, and we want to do it because we want to make America safe again, and we want people to thrive in our community. But we want people to come here, but we want people to come here legally. We want them to come here legally. So I just wanted to get that going. I've been on for about 4 minutes now. But what I wanted to do is go ahead and switch over to some of the accusations against Brett Kavanaugh. So we have this lady, Kirsten Ford, who alleges that Brett Kavanaugh, in a drunken stoop, had sexually assaulted her about 3 decades ago in Maryland. And she claims this to have been happened, but she doesn't know what year exactly, what time, or she doesn't give any information other than the fact that it was Brett Kavanaugh. And he unequivocally denies this charge. Like I said,
Chief Justice John Roberts has recognized that, quote, the judicial branch is not immune, end quote, from the widespread problem of sexual harassment and assault, and has taken steps to address this issue. As part of my responsibility as a member of this committee to ensure the fitness of nominees for a lifetime appointment to the federal bench, I ask each nominee 2 questions. First question for you. Since you became a legal adult, have you ever made unwanted requests for sexual favors or committed any verbal or physical harassment or assault of a sexual nature?
No.
Have you ever faced discipline or entered into a settlement related to this kind of conduct?
No.
So there you have it. Kavanaugh sits down and answers the question straight up that he has never harassed anybody sexually or asked for sexual favors, and neither has he at any time entered into a settlement in regards to him sexually harassing another lady. So I thought that was really important. Both answers are no. I tend to believe him, and the reason I believe him is because this happened over 30 years ago, and now, just all of a sudden, as he begins to potentially become a Supreme Court nominee, that these accusations are charged against him. And so, I mean, isn't it a little convenient? Does this not just show a little bit of questioning? Does it not allow us to question why all of a sudden that these things are coming out when this had happened 30 years ago? I mean, Kavanaugh was already a very distinguished judge, so you would figure that somebody, if they knew that he was progressing and becoming this important in terms of being a judge in the United States of America, that they would raise these questions a little bit earlier. Now, I am not a sexual assault victim, so I don't know what it's like to be in their shoes. And so I understand how it would be very difficult to come out. I just find the timing to be a bit questionable. That's what I question. And also, I also question the accusation because there's not a lot of hard facts behind it. And now, the Christine Blasey Ford is now asking for an FBI investigation into this. I think the burden of proof at this point in time is on her, is on Mrs. Ford to step forward and say, look, this is what happened. This is exactly when it happened. And here were the people involved. This is where it was. This is when I got picked up. This is when I got dropped off. Now, if she was already maybe too inebriated at the time to remember this, that raises a whole nother set of questions. But nonetheless, it is important for her to come forward and bring forth this information. She is, the burden of proof is on her, and she needs to provide that if these allegations are in fact true, which I question whether or not they are. So what we have here is another solid article from the New York Post. I think is pretty interesting, and it talks about the liberal totalitarianism. And totalitarianism in this sense is just talking about how the liberals are essentially creating this essentially an echo chamber where all of this information is pushed through the media. So what you have is a letter from Christine Blasey Ford, who was given to Dianne Feinstein, who had the letter from what she considered an anonymous source for over, I think, 2 months. So she has this letter, and she waits until the nomination of Judge Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court, and then she brings this information forth once he has been nominated. Now, why doesn't this information come out before? I mean, why at the very last minute has this information came forth and now he has to answer these questions? And I beg that question, and I do that because if If this is in fact true, this allegation, then why not nip it in the butt and just prevent him already from even being nominated? So I think, in my personal opinion, what's happening here is that the Democrats are using this as political theater so that they can go ahead and attack Kavanaugh and his family. Now, this isn't the first time that it's ever happened to a Supreme Court justice. So here is a video on Clarence Thomas and his response to sexual assault from Anita Hill. And I'm going to go ahead and play that. This is from 1991.
I would like to start by saying unequivocally, uncategorically, that I deny each and every single allegation against me today that suggested in any way that I had conversations of a sexual nature or about pornographic material with Anita Hill, that I ever attempted to date her, that I ever had any personal sexual interest in her, or that I in any way ever harassed her. A second, and I think more important point, I think that this today is a travesty. I think that it is disgusting. I think that this hearing should never occur in America. This is a case in which this sleaze, this dirt, was searched for by staffers of members of this committee. And this committee and this body validated it and displayed it at prime time over our entire nation. How would any member on this committee, any person in this room, or any person in this country, him or her in this fashion, or this dirt dredged up, and this gossip and these lies displayed in this manner? How would any person like it? The Supreme Court is not worth it. No job is worth it. I'm not here for that. I'm here for my name, my family, my life, and my integrity. I think something is dreadfully wrong with this country when any person in this free country would be subjected to this. This is not a closed room. There was an FBI investigation. This is not an opportunity to talk about difficult matters privately or in a closed environment. This is a circus. It's a national disgrace. And from my standpoint, as a black American, as far as I'm concerned, it is a high-tech lynching for uppity blacks who in any way deign to think for themselves, to do for themselves, to have different ideas. And it is a message that unless you kowtow to an old order, this is what will happen to you. You will be lynched, destroyed, caricatured by a committee of the U.S. Senate rather than hung from a tree.
So that right there is really something else from Clarence Thomas. And I think what he laid out there is exactly what has gone on here. It's really no different. And so we're seeing this happen in the past, and now it's happening in the present, and will probably continue to happen. And so the real question is, are we just going to sit back and allow this stuff to happen? I mean, do we not need to create some sort of ramification where if people come out and they make allegations that happen to be false or unsubstantiated claims, and they knowingly come out with this information to either hurt someone's career or their character. I know we have defamation laws, but I don't think we have enough. I think there needs to be something that if somebody comes out and we don't have this information in regards to the allegation that they're proposing happened, then I believe there needs to be some type of ramification, some type of recourse against that person. And it can be monetary, or it can be maybe the person who's being accused. If they lose money, then maybe that person should be responsible for paying them. Or if the person who makes the allegations is lying, then perhaps they go to jail. And so I think that there needs to be some type of ramification, some type of recourse for these exact type of things. I thought this was an interesting little video. I'm just going to show a little bit of it. Just one moment.
The choices are these. Kavanaugh is a predator and a sociopath who has manipulated everyone in his life into believing that he's decent. Or B, he was a drunk teenager who did something that he shouldn't have. Or C, he is an innocent man being falsely accused by partisan hacks. Like we have already established, the first one is really hard to believe. He's been in the game for too long for nothing like this to ever have come up. Number two, it's very possible, but we still just don't know whether or not that should really be disqualifying. And number three, given our current information, is probable. This could very well be a political stunt by Democrats. Democrats know that even if this confirmation goes through, which it probably still will, that this is going to cause a lot of outrage. And it's going to help them come November, come the midterms. Because Republicans are going to be the misogynistic bigots who don't believe women, who actually confirmed and accused sexual assault around the Supreme Court. It's a very clever line of attack. And I trust the Democrats are very much looking forward to using it. And that's really the thing here. Whether or not this story is true, Democrats do not care about Ford. They do not care about this alleged victim. Even if this did happen and caused her.
I absolutely agree with that. I do not think the Democrats care about this woman. I think they will use any means necessary politically to attack people who do not disagree with them or that they don't want in a position of power. And we just had Neil Gorsuch. We just had Neil Gorsuch, who was just nominated and accepted to the Supreme Court. And then we now have Brett Kavanaugh. So you're going to have 5 conservative judges, and you're going to have 2 liberal judges on the Supreme Court. And that right there is what this election was all about. We can like Trump, we cannot like Trump, but ultimately you're going to have people that have been nominated to the Supreme Court that are going to uphold the Constitution and the Constitution as it is written, not a living, breathing document that can be manipulated based on what people would like it to say or what potentially it could be in hypothetics, because the Constitution, the First and the Second Amendment, and the amendments thereafter are written specifically for a reason, and for that, not a period of time, but instead that specific reason in the language within the Constitution in those amendments themselves. So here is a really interesting piece that was put together by the Gateway Pundit, one of the sources that I consistently use. This is a video of Jim Acosta interviewing an ex-classmate of Kirsten Ford. And so if you can watch the video in totality, I'm going to go ahead and provide the link. But this gets down to the nuts and the bolts of this accusation by Christine Blasey Ford. And this is her so-called friend that knows her. And so this is going to start off by a question from Jim Kavanaugh, or excuse me, from Jim Acosta in regards to Kavanaugh and some of the other people that are involved surrounding the hearings.
Now Susan Collins coming forward and saying essentially that if she doesn't speak, if she doesn't talk to investigators, if she doesn't talk to the committee or speak publicly at this hearing, that they just need to move on and vote. What do you make of that?
I'm a little disappointed to hear that. She has said that she will talk to investigators, but my understanding is that having the proper FBI investigation would be only done at the request of Trump, and I'm not sure how likely that is, which really puts Christine in a very uncomfortable position, because appearing in a public forum in front of thousands of cameras and people and Congress people, it just seems really like an inappropriate forum for this kind of discussion, at least for the next step. And we've already seen that done. I mean, no one can say that the Anita Hill hearings were a great success. So
she doesn't want to go through the same thing that Anita Hill went.
Why would you want to go through that? She doesn't want to go through what she's going through now. This is a really traumatic experience on top of a traumatic experience.
And do you know Brett Kavanaugh at all?
I did. He was an acquaintance of mine in high school.
And did he have this reputation for excessive drinking during that time?
I can't really speak to that because
what about
he wasn't
what
directly...
Dr. Ford is alleging? Was this the first time you had heard anything like that with respect to Judge Kavanaugh?
Absolutely. It was not the first time I've heard anything like that in terms of the community of women that I know, and not regarding him, but
those sorts of things went on.
A lot. You know, one of the things that's been surprising to me as I've gotten involved in this in the last couple of days is how many women of my class have come forward to me in this last few days and said, I had similar experiences in high school, and this hits very deeply, and it's very...
Not with Brett Kavanaugh, but with other boys.
Not with Brett Kavanaugh, but with other boys in our community, and we all feel that if we were in her shoes, we'd want to be taken seriously as well.
Okay. Well, we appreciate your time very much, Samantha Gary. Thank you very much.
So you heard it from the lady herself. She says that none of the allegations that she had been aware of involved Supreme Court nominee Judge Brett Kavanaugh. So he wasn't involved in anything of that nature that she is aware of. Now, if we can put this into context, this is a direct accusal of this lady, Christine Blasey Ford, against Brett Kavanaugh, and then you have a friend of hers, or an ex-classmate, however you want to say it, of this lady, Ms. Ford, and she is saying that she is not aware of Kavanaugh being involved in any type of sexual assault. So, you know, when I was in high school, there were things that did happen in college that I cannot say, nothing that I was involved in, but some other things that people were involved in that I could not say were necessarily the most morally good things to do. Was it a sexual assault? It's hard for me to say. A lot of times young people, they get out of control, they do silly things, and they're sitting there, and maybe people have had too many drinks of alcohol, they're intoxicated, and maybe they make decisions that they wouldn't have if they weren't in that state. Now, is that sexual assault? Yeah, I think in some cases it can be. I think in other cases perhaps it isn't. But this is the problem that we're having is I was in high school probably, I want to say 13 years ago, 14 years ago. These people were in high school 30 to 35 years ago. So if I think back to high school, some of the things that happened, I'm like, I can't say for sure that this was the right thing to do? Was it sexual assault? Probably not. I think they're going to have even a more difficult time even coming up with any type of information that is accurate. And then on top of that, how do you even know that the accusation is true in and of itself? So I just think, I think to put something like that into perspective is important. I mean, of course, we're not in any way, shape, or form condoning any type of sexual assault. That is absolutely egregious, and people who are involved in any type of sexual assault should be charged. If they are in fact guilty, should be charged of a crime. These people have been asking for an FBI investigation into something that happened 35 years ago, and I'm not quite sure that it's at this point in time, at this timing, is that prudent. Now I understand this person is going to be on the Supreme Court, so if there is in fact something here, as they say, if there's smoke, then there's fire. Well, is there in fact smoke, or is this just some type of an accusal by a lady who doesn't like Judge Brett Kavanaugh and his politics? I think that's what it comes down to. Is this just an accusation because she doesn't like the guy, or is it in fact something that did happen? And based on the timing and everything and all the blurred details, I am believing that it is most likely not a factual thing, that none of the like did happen. And it's interesting to me that this information hadn't come forth yet. But I wanted to play that little video for you that was on CNN, and then this article by the Gateway Pundit. So here is actually a really cool article that was put forth. It's Cult of the First, .blogspot.com. And I'll go ahead and provide this link as well. But it talks about the high school where Christine Blasey Ford went, and the kind of the culture that surrounded their high school and the yearbook. So if you read into this article, it talks about how the yearbooks had been scrubbed, essentially taken off of the internet so that the information was not still up. But the article reads a little bit in here that the faculty approved of the binge drinking. And they talk about the social scene and talking about passing out and the various likes. And here's some more articles. They're talking about looking at Blasey's sophomore and junior years. You're seeing pictures here that have been blacked out, and some of the people. It's the Holton party scene. Another sophomore girl threw multiple all-night benders, and the highlight of which featured a male erotic dancer in a gold G-string. So, it's when people are involved in this type of culture, they're bound that things are going to happen. And I think it's just really convenient that while the parents are out of town, they're having these parties, and then 35 years later, Brett Kavanaugh is then accused of some type of sexual assault against this lady. Also, it shows right here that faculty approved racism at Holton Arms. These are, these seem to be pretty racy things for a yearbook, but nonetheless, talking about promiscuity, hey, this is just information that was compiled from a yearbook, so I just wanted to show this. So these are the things that Christine Blasey Ford was involved in herself. I'm not saying she was involved in sexual assaulting other people. I'm saying that she was involved in partying, obviously drinking, perhaps promiscuity. I don't know, okay? I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, she was promiscuous, so then therefore it was okay that she was sexually assaulted. In no way, okay, am I saying that. But I am saying that when there's drinking and promiscuity and it all goes together, I think the likelihood of some sort of sexual encounter is far more likely to happen, and then therefore may be construed as some type of sexual assault. Now, I don't know exactly what happened. I don't think anybody really knows what happened, but I think this gives a little bit of insight and detail into perhaps what Christine Ford was involved in. So this right here is a short little video that I thought was important because it seems to me that once there was an accusation, kind of like similar to how there was with all the Me Too, the hashtag Me Too stories and the hashtag Me Too movement, is essentially what seems to me is to be a coordinated effort by people that are involved in the feminist movement and are high up in politics and or Hollywood. And so I wanted to show you a little video that was put together. It got like 3.6 million views already, but it is basically a knock on Judge Brett Kavanaugh.
How difficult it is to stand up to powerful people.
We want to thank you for publicly sharing your story of sexual violence.
As members of the Senate determine whether Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh
should serve as a Supreme Court Justice.
The Supreme Court Justice.
This context is critical.
The behavior you described was wrong.
Wrong, and runs directly counter to upholding the law
And promoting justice.
He should not be confirmed.
He should not be confirmed.
He should not be confirmed.
We can also imagine how shocking and overwhelming it must have been
to have your truth shared on a national stage without your permission.
you should be the decision maker about how your story is shared, if ever.
We applaud your courage in coming forward
for the public good.
And we will be with you as you face the inevitable backlash.
The inevitable backlash.
The inevitable backlash.
So there's no doubt that this lady deserves to determine how her story is upheld. However, I think once Ms. Ford writes a letter to Senator Feinstein, at that point, it is essentially out of her control. Now, if she wants to come forward and she wants to put something else out on her own, whether it be on Facebook or Twitter, or hold some type of press conference in regard to Brett Kavanaugh, that's a whole different story. But here you have it again. It just doesn't really necessarily seem to add up. So she writes this letter, she sends it to Feinstein, Feinstein sits on it. Then as soon as these hearings start, a few days in, then we have the accusation. So, I mean, look, if you're going to come forward, do it in a timely manner. Let us know, what's going on. If there's something that's going wrong, that's wrong, then great. But I just don't see it. So in this country, in America, you are innocent until proven guilty, right? Well, it seems like with the Me Too movement and any type of sexual assault that the media can get their hands on, you are guilty until proven innocent, which is not the law. So in this country, you are innocent until proven guilty. So I want to show you a couple videos that show, and these are people in Congress that are saying that they believe this man. I'll go ahead and play this video. Just 1 second.
She should be bullied into this scenario where it's a he said, she said, where many members of the committee have already made up their mind. Without the benefit of an FBI investigation where it's nonpartisan and objective, and without the benefit of corroborating witnesses being able to testify, it's a sham hearing. And I don't think she should participate in it.
So she doesn't want to involve in a hearing that allows her to get her story out. And instead, we believe that there should be an FBI investigation, which is only going to drag out this potential nominee or nomination further. And you know what? And ultimately, that's fine, because I think the safe thing to do for Trump is just to let this all happen. And I mean, I actually think it's kind of ridiculous that there could be this much nonsense surrounding a Supreme Court nominee. I mean, I think it should be just like the legal process. You have the right to a swift judgment. And I mean, come on, let's get this done. Either you approve the nominee or you don't, and let's move forward. And if he's guilty of something, then therefore so be it. But in my opinion, this lady should just believe the person that's the accuser. And I mean, come on, like let's maybe wait a little bit. Let's find out some more information. I don't know if an FBI investigation is necessarily pertinent in this situation, but nonetheless, I mean, let's try to gather some more facts before we just believe somebody who is accusing somebody else of rape. We've seen that all the time, and I think just kind of like there should be some type of ramification. If someone is accusing somebody of sexual assault or some type of rape, and it is a false accusation, there should be some type of ramification and recourse for the person that had been accused. Here's Joy Behar talking about a very similar thing as the previous lady that was just on CNN.
This is what I grew up with, that men are supposed to protect you from these predatory males. I do too. And they're not doing that. And believe you. On the contrary, but we have these people in Congress right now, in that Senate Judiciary Committee, these white men, old, by the way, are not protecting women. They're protecting a man who is probably guilty. If you're not Judge Kavanaugh, take the lie detector test. Yeah. Prove it the way she did and the way Anita Hill did, that they were not lying. Let's see that from you. Or are you a coward? Yeah.
A coward. All right, let's bring.
Oh, so I'm so surprised that Joy Behar came out and started bashing the old white men that are okay with sexual assault. I mean, this lady is absolutely insane. She's just a liberal talking head that just spews all this garbage. And it actually, you know what it does is it takes away from those people who have actually been sexually assaulted. Because when there are these type of accusations that most likely are not true and they happen time and time again, well, then people just start to not believe. They just don't believe the people who are making the accusation. They just don't believe it. And then, where was all this outrage with Bill Clinton when he apparently raped Juanita Broaddrick? What about what happened with Monica Lewinsky in the White House? Where was Hillary Clinton during all this? Where is all this outrage? Remember during the debates when Trump brought up all these people, Juanita Broaddrick, etc., and they talked about how they had been hurt and or sexually assaulted and or raped by then President Bill Clinton? Where was all this outrage? And then now she just stands up there and automatic, and she doesn't go on the side of these ladies. But then all of a sudden now that it's a Republican or somebody that disagrees with her political stance, she's the first one to go out there and say they're guilty and that she believes him and that he needs to take a lie detector test. I mean, I'm sure he could go out there and take a lie detector test, but that's not really how things in this country work. I mean, if we could have somebody sit down in court and just do, okay, take a lie detector, did you or did you not do this? And then that would be the whole case. That's not how the law works. So it really doesn't add up. It's just another way for them to score another political point, essentially. So here's what you have to love about the Kavanaugh family. They have Kavanaugh's wife went ahead and started giving cupcakes to the press that were essentially trashing her and her family. So she goes out there and she turns the other cheek, and hey, she's gonna give him some cupcakes. Do you not love this? His wife handed out cupcakes with sprinkles to the photogs, and the producers who wanted them. So, I mean, come on. I mean, and not only that, this is the perfect little thing. The question is, why are they at his house? Why are these people at his house? I mean, it's just another way to intimidate him and his family and his wife to probably say, hey, honey, maybe we shouldn't move forward. Maybe it's not worth being on the Supreme Court. Just like Clarence Thomas said in his video, it's not worth it. He was up there and he was defending himself, his character, and his family. And perhaps that is really the reason that Kavanaugh is still up as a nominee to the Supreme Court, because maybe he is the one that is now thinking, hey, these accusations are false, so I'm going to go up there and I'm going to protect my family. I'm going to fight against these accusations because they are not true, as he said when he answered the questions in the hearing that I showed earlier in this video. So I want to go ahead and show you an article from Fox News, and this is in regards to Keith Ellison, who potentially will be the Attorney General of Minnesota. Now, he was accused and was involved in physical abuse against his girlfriend at the time, and this was well documented, not only in a 911 call but in police reports. And she mentions that she had talked about this with her therapist. Now, she went ahead and came forward, and essentially what happened to her is nobody believed her because, of course, I mean, hey, it's politically expedient for the liberals or the feminists to say, oh, well, we believe this lady, Miss Ford, but we don't believe Keith Ellison's girlfriend, who was a victim of physical abuse, who actually has documentation to back up her claim. So I'm going to go ahead and flip over here real quick and just show this. This is the picture of Keith Ellison and Karen Monahan, or Monahan, I should say. And it talks about the Democrats, and she says, no, they don't. They don't care about Monahan. She says, I've been smeared, threatened, isolated from my own party. I provided medical records from 2017 stating on two different doctor visits. I told them about the abuse and who did it. My therapist released records stating I had been dealing and healing from the abuse. So, as you can see here, it shows Democrats say believe women. Do they believe you? And then she responds. So, I mean, I think the problem here is it's only when it's politically expedient for the Democrats do they go ahead and recognize some type of physical or sexual assault, especially the timeliness of it. I mean, could you imagine if this comes out against a Democrat nominee where there's actual facts? I bet you all the Democrats are sitting up there in all these groups and all the media. The media is either ignoring it, or there are people on Facebook and Twitter who are just viciously attacking this person who is making accusations against a Democrat. Now, I don't think that Republicans are nasty. They're just not going to go ahead and just berate somebody and just attack them like you have Miss Ford. I think a lot of Republicans, I'm a Republican, I don't consider myself a conservative, quote unquote, but I consider myself a Republican, and I'm not going to go ahead and attack Mrs. Ford. However, I am going to go ahead and question her in the validity of her accusation. And I think that's fair. I think that is with anything. But when she doesn't have any documentation versus Miss Monahan that does have documentation in terms of a 911 call and then a police report, I think therein lies the difference between Miss Monahan and Miss Ford. So this right here was another tweet that I had seen, and it says Standord hid the profile of Christine Blasey Ford, so she's an affiliate of psychiatry and behavioral sciences. Miss Ford is. So all of a sudden these accusations have come forth. The information from the yearbooks are taken down. Standord takes off the profile of Christine Blasey Ford, and less information is out there about her, but yet she is then making these accusations. So that's kind of interesting. And so why all of a sudden is all this information being taken down and you're seeing kind of a double standard between Keith Ellison, who was the gentleman I just showed you who had abused Ms. Monahan, and Brett Kavanaugh. Here's a good one from the Daily Caller. Emotional and physical abuse, Ellison's accuser. So, I think these are the things that people are noticing, that these are the things that people are beginning to see a pattern on, and that it's questionable as to, the timing and the whereabouts of the story and who did what. And you're seeing Keith Ellison kind of getting away with this while the Judge Brett Kavanaugh is being essentially just obliterated. And then here's the last one. So there was sexual misconduct allegations against Keith Ellison, and nobody blinked. So there you have it. You have another situation where Keith Ellison is involved in physical and some type of sexual misconduct. And it's just kind of a shame, because you have this double standard, where people are not really willing to show and talk about the story in its entirety. So anyways, I hope this information was helpful. I hope it gives you some background into kind of what is going on holistically around this accusation against Brett Kavanaugh. And then I just wanted to show a little bit of the double standard of Keith Ellison, where all this stuff with him and his girlfriend was swept under the rug. And then you have Brett Kavanaugh, who may have or may have not done something when he was a teenager 35 years ago, when there was alcohol involved. Who knows if he was even there at this party. So it's just, it's this double standard, and the, kind of the selective outrage and, the organized media attack on, Republicans or people who don't necessarily agree with Democrats or the globalist agenda and anything. And it seems like the Democrats will do anything and say anything to keep their power. So anyways, I hope everybody enjoyed this. Again, this is Mike Hanley with RightSideNews.com. Don't be left, be right.